All right. Welcome. Good afternoon, everybody. Um, Welcome in to the final day of the Small Farms Conference, the 33rd Annual Small Farms Conference of the Community Alliance with Family Farmers. My name is Rashid Hislop, and I'm a farm to market specialist with CAF. Recently started back in August of 2020. I've been loving all my time thus far with CAF, and it's been great. I want to first and foremost just let folks know um, this is a webinar focused on passing on the knowledge of Black farmers who have been doing the work to those that are recently entered or more recently coming into farming, and which is a vital activity that needs to happen. Folks will have a chance to. So we are going to have a panel, which is going to be facilitated by Wanda Stewart. Before we jump into things, just want to let folks know in terms of setting the ground rules, we will be able to have questions in a queue that are presented to our panelists. And though there will be time at the end of the conversation, as the conversation concludes, there'll be time for some Q&A at the end. Okay, and I am going to go ahead and share my screen and help us get grounded as we prepare to have what is going to be, I think, a great informative conversation. So I will go ahead and bear with me for one moment. And welcome in as folks come in. Welcome in. Great to see you. Great to see so many people coming in for what is going to be a great conversation with you all here. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. And I'm going to go into presentation.
It's okay,
mode.
babe. I'll take notes so we don't miss anything.
Welcome in. Folks, just make sure to mute your microphone if you can. If we get any sort of lots of noise coming in from certain lines, we'll probably go ahead and mute you for you on your behalf, just to make sure that we can keep the conversation flowing and also make sure people can hear our great speakers today. So in opening things up, I'm going to go ahead and I just want to acknowledge first and foremost the land upon which I stand and the land upon which all of us stand here in the great state of California is indigenous land. And you can see, where I sit here in Madera County is Yokut land, unceded Yokut land. You can see on the map to what is my left of the screen here, a indigenous land map, native land map, which covers a pretty good bit of our region. And so it is important for us to acknowledge that the land upon which we stand was stolen. To my right is a picture of a transatlantic slave ship depiction. And you can see what those conditions were like on those ships. Black people were stolen. We need to acknowledge that as well. It can't acknowledge one and not acknowledge the other. And I'm hoping that we have an honest conversation about the struggles as Black people in not only coming into this land in this country, and and also being able to persevere because of those seeds that were woven into the hair of those on these ships, which represents that perseverance. And we see that in our agricultural perseverance today as well. I'm going to go ahead and go to my next slide and introduce our MC for today. I'm sorry, actually. So Wanda, I'll let you take this one, and just in terms of acknowledging our ancestral forebears. Oh, I think you're muted, Wanda. Uh-oh.
Bam, there we go.
There we go.
Thank you for inviting me to do this. Growing food is really important to me. And originally it was important to me to teach children about it. And then I ran across this picture, and for anybody that wants to trace the history of that, this is documentation from a conference in New York City in 1925, in which former slaves were brought together to, I don't even know what they did, but there are some amazing pictures online about this. But I came across this picture and it stopped me dead in my tracks and gave me a new definition for why I do what I do. All of the women in this picture, and let me just shout out their names. They are Annie Parham, Anna Angeles, Elizabeth Berkeley, and Sadie Thompson. And every single one of these ancestors, when the picture was taken, was more than 100 years old. So when I first saw it, I was kind of like, wait, slavery was a horrible situation. How on earth are these women alive at 125 years, one of them? And I realized then that they were eating organic vegetables. They had worked very hard with their bodies. They had essential community in and around gardens that required survival. And they had a spiritual connection with the land. And my belief is when we were set free, we went running from those plantations, as was right to do. But we left a lot of our greatness and our power back in those places. And that's also where the trauma lies. So I believe that when we come together, first as a people, Black folks, and then as a community, all folks, we can grow gardens, heal the wounds that lay in that land, and reclaim the greatness while taking care of the earth. So those ladies, for me, represent my work in the world and why I do it.
That's beautiful. Wanda, thank you so much. I want to go ahead and introduce Wanda Stewart, our MC for today, and thank you for that knowledge. I know I have a lot of reading up to do about those ladies in that picture. So Wanda Stewart, excuse me, went ahead first. So Wanda Stewart is the Executive Director of Common Vision. Prior to joining Common Vision, Wanda served as the Executive Director for People's Grocery in Oakland, and then went on to serve as Hoover Elementary's garden educator in Oakland. Here, she created one of the most impressive school gardens in California. She is a lifelong gardener who has mentored thousands in building gardens and growing food. A trusted voice and community member in the East Bay's permaculture and food justice movements, she has the networking virtuosity to assemble the brightest minds and greenest thumbs towards a more just food system for all. And with that, I will hand it over to Wanda Stewart, and I will cheat and ask you, Wanda, when did you know that you were a farmer?
Oh, when I was lucky to live in boarding schools, and one of those had a 12-acre organic garden that didn't require me to grow anything. And when I moved to Berkeley, California, and found out in 2000 that a dozen farm fresh eggs could cost $10, I started growing food right then. And when I found out I was really good at it, that's when I began to claim myself a farmer, or at least a gardener.
Beautiful.
I'm told you're a farmer once you have some kind of farm animals on your land. And I got chickens and I got worms and I got 2 dogs that are sure to Zoom bomb me soon.
All right. And I'll let you take it away.
Sure. So I must tell you that I know almost everyone on this panel, and I am just thrilled to welcome them and put us all together to talk about these things. So Zion Davidson, he, him, is a gardener, chef, community organizer, writer, land and food justice activist, a meditation teacher working to overgrow the system. He's here to plant and nurse seeds for racial and economic equality, prison abolition, decolonial medicine ways, embodied earth-based spiritual practice, and restoration of the commons. He lives and works at The Refuge, a multiracial residential community, organic farm, educational hub, and healing sanctuary located in the Sierra foothills, working for reparations and land regeneration. And I know that was a mouthful, but I need everybody to know that Zion Davidson is every bit all of those things. Zion, you want to chime in and tell us when you first knew you were a farmer? Please.
Blessings, yes. I first knew I was a farmer when I grew my own sweet potatoes and I made a sweet potato pie from them. My first ever homemade sweet potato pie like that. I was like, all right, I'm in.
Awesome.
So
in Oakland,
I feel so honored to be in this discussion. Thank you so much for inviting me into this space. Yeah, I'm so honored to be one of the younger people welcomed into this circle of wisdom. So thank you.
In Oakland, we say Zion is a hella cook. Y'all need to taste this food. It's amazing. Who else we got, Rashid? Christopher B. Field Sr. is a lifelong resident of Fresno, California. He started working at Fresno Irrigation District in 2015, where he assists in the distribution of water in the county of Fresno. He joined the African American Farmers of California in 2020, where he began growing a variety of vegetables such as squash, cucumbers, and okra. His goals are to grow healthy vegetables to serve locally and throughout the Central Valley. He's currently volunteering as an associate pastor at the House of Faith Ministry Church in Southwest Fresno and has founded a nonprofit corporation to assist individuals that are homeless to job and housing opportunities. How about you, Chris? When did you become a farmer?
First, I'd like to say, Wanda, it's a pleasure to be here and to, this is my first time seeing you. So, but it is a pleasure. It is a pleasure. It is a pleasure. I hope that I get to see you in person one time. But you know what? I consider myself a farmer. As I began to work with the irrigation district and be in the midst of so many different farmers, it's almost as if it's a divine appointment. You know, it's like the land cries out to me, you know, and in crying out to me as an irrigator, I wanted to do more. I wanted to do more than just irrigate. I just felt that it was so much more to do. So I began in seeking to be able to come in the presence of farmers that I felt that could help me farm. Was this to be 2 words? I'm sorry. Or a few words, but at any rate, so I'm so grateful that I was to be able to meet the African-American farmers and to be able to make this somewhat of a reality since 2020. So just recently, within the past few years, I would say, in a nutshell.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Wanda.
Yep, good to meet you. Okay, Rashid. Patricia Miller, who, like Chris said, I heard and know all about Patricia's work, but we are really just meeting and getting acquainted for the first time. Patricia is a current board member of the Community Alliance with Family Farmers. Ms. Miller also serves as a community engagement manager with the Edible Schoolyard project based in Stockton, California. She is a co-founder of the Black Urban Farmers Association of Stockton, former director of special projects for Puentes, and a retired senior community service officer for the Stockton Police Department. She migrated from San Francisco to Alameda and then Stockton as she was drawn to agriculture in the region. And then she's lived and participated in food systems and economic development work for more than 25 years. Hey, Patricia.
Good morning, everyone. Wanda, thank you. Rashid,
Yep.
thank you. Thank you. I must say, holding this space with all of you all to change our narrative is a blessing. I have been a farmer for 25 years. And that is when I realized moving to Stockton, I had the ability to change things and change what poverty looks like. So thank you. Thank you for the question. And we're going to keep it moving. Mr. Scott, I love you. It's so good to see you. I just had to throw that in because he is my true hero. Yes. Absolutely.
Thank you, Patricia. Oh, Mr. Scott. So I love Mr. Scott too. I would say I was president of the Mr. Scott fan club, except a lot of people would come for me on that. Well, and he has totally inspired my work. Will Scott got his start working in the fields from an early age. Will Scott Jr. is a California transplant whose family moved to California from Oklahoma in 1952 when Mr. Scott was a teenager. His grandfather was a sharecropper and his father picks grapes and cotton in California's Central Valley. After 30 years of work as an engineer for one of California's largest corporations, Will Scott retired a decade ago. Upon retirement, he got into gardening, then farming, and ultimately farming advocacy. Today, Will Scott Jr. is a man on a mission, determined to keep the legacy of African-American farmers alive and growing in the Golden State. Mr. Scott.
Hello, everyone.
How are you, my brother?
I'm fine. I tell you what, this is a blessing. I want to thank Rashid and all of you guys for inviting me to participate in this, because this has been one of my, I guess, one of the missions that I had is that, you know, in order to get farming back into the presence. Now, as you know, some of my bio is that my grandfather, as it stated, was a sharecropper. My father sharecropped with him, and I got in on the tail end of it. But as far as how did I get back into farming, because I was told, and most of people of my culture, we was told to get an education, get away from farming. You know, you need to get an education so you can get a job so you can take care of your family. Well, being an obedient son, I did that. But spiritually, I think that you know that we was all put on this earth for something, for a reason. We have a goal to, a mission to do. So after I went through high school, went through junior college, and then was drafted into the military, came back, I got married, then I bought 5 acres. That was going to be my, going to be my dream home. But in the meanwhile, I started to disc it and started growing vegetables, you know, for my family. The community liked it. So, you know, and then I started doing it, you know, for the community. But it's something spiritual about the land when you can put something dead into the ground and it produce life. You know, you take care of it, and then at the end you harvest it, and it brings, you know, a nutritional value to the people that in your community that you love. So that's why I got back into it. And sometime I think that I maybe when I retired, I should have took my retirement, bought me a boat, and went fishing. but, but you know, like I say, is that I realized that, you know, that I had a mission too, and that if you know a little bit of history about the California, is that there's over 100,000 farmers in California. Of that number, African-American only compromised, but maybe by it's a little over 500, I believe, which is less than 0.5%. That's kind of dismal for people who actually, with their free labor, built this country. The country was built on their backs, you know, our ancestors, because they worked for nothing, and they was, to me, was the original farmers. So at this late date, we need to get back into it because we have a mission to fulfill and to complete. So with that, I'll stop. Yeah.
That's beautiful. I agree. I would have to say gardening and farming changed my personal life first. I was trained to be a permaculturalist, or at least think in the ways of regeneration and permaculture. And maybe my favorite part of permaculture is the social permaculture piece, right? Where we're growing people just like we're growing plants. And you start with yourself first. So I will say, eating my own food, growing my own food changed my life and my body, right? So when this pandemic started and the folks were upset about the comorbidities, right? I wasn't so much worried about that because of the way I'd been eating. Also, I watched growing a garden together transform a community. My big garden is in West Oakland that is supposed to be a food desert. We can no longer claim that. We have a food forest. But it changed the way the children dealt not only with the earth and its creatures, but with each other. And it changed the way the white people and the Black people in a neighborhood that's being gentrified engaged each other, right? And then it also changed the actual land and space. And all those things are done in a single action. So I'm thrilled now as we begin to talk across culture about these issues. I really do believe we can change this planet. I'm going to ask the people who are listening, particularly to this first part of the conversation, to understand something we're going to try to do. We're going to try to have a conversation between Black folks, right? And we're going to allow whoever is outside of the circle of panelists to just engage that, sort of like the fishbowl activities that we're all listening to. But it can be hard for Black folks in any culture of people to talk about their real feelings, their real perspective, without concern about how that will be perceived outside of themselves. So I ask our audience and our listeners to listen with an open mind, but also an open heart, for it takes courage to speak some of these truths. And then I want to also ask my fellow panelists to be brave and courageous and direct and truthful with the people. Is that all good? Yeah.
Oh,
So
yes.
yes.
It's all
Okay.
good. Yeah.
All right. So one of the first questions that we sort of co-collaborated on is, how do we talk about family farmers and the definition of family farmers to help eliminate the whiteness of the stereotypical definition? So let me say this too. When I first started doing this work in the East Bay, everybody kept saying to me, "Oh, you're the only Black one doing it." And every time I would go to a new farm in a new place, I'd find all these Black folks in the East Bay, Mr. Scott being one of them, doing this work. And then I began to joke, there's a lot of Black folks. We just all spread out on different plantations, right? And then I went, oh, wow, we are spread out on different plantations, right? So now here's an opportunity. There's a lot of us doing this work, but how do we eliminate that notion that this is what white people do, or here in the city, this is what white women do while they're on the way to whatever their career is going to be? I'd like to hear from our panelists. If y'all will come off mute so that maybe it can be a real flow of a conversation, that would be okay. I'm going to go on mute because my dogs are cracking up in the background. But what do you think? How do we change the image of who is a farmer in America?
Well, first, I would like to start out that conversation and just say, especially as a Black man, it starts with seeing someone who looks like me, okay, farming. As growing up, I didn't see, my father, he farmed a little bit when I was a boy. He had 20 acres of land. He farmed a little bit when I was a boy. And then for whatever reason, times were tough and there became a drought and there was no water for the land. And then it became another issue. He was dealing mainly upon irrigation water. There was no well on the land. So I don't know the details of that, but I would say that, it starts with just like, I just want to say Mr. Scott, for instance. I had heard about Mr. Scott and I had never saw him, but I had heard about him years before I'd even met him. But it was first a discussion of hearing about Mr. Scott that even encouraged me. I got hungry to meet this man. And, you know, it was by divine appointment. You know, I got a chance now. I met this man, and it's a wonderful thing. But this is the start, first, of recognizing, because we as Black people are visual people. And so I would just say first, putting people like him, farmers, out front so that we can see. This initiates discussion and topics for conversation.
You know, Chris, thank you for saying that. And I too agree with you about putting us in the forefront and raising the vibration and understanding of where we are. Wanda, thank you for the question, because family for Black people, there doesn't have to be a bloodline. And that goes back to my own personal understanding, because our bloodlines were broken. So when we felt the love of another tribe, that is what brought us together. And doing my own research on my own lineage and my own heritage and culture, I gotta say, Chris, meeting Mr. Scott has made me feel more comfortable about what my real family looks like, because it is all of you all. And the knowledge that I get from 3 generations is how I am going to move forward. So, and I'm going to come back to the definition of what 3 generations looks like in our follow-up questions. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wanda, you're on me. Okay.
There was beautiful tribe at the Freedom Farmers Market where I first met Mr. Scott. We bought together Black folks who grew and Black folks who wanted the vegetables grown. But there was also community that germinated, right, in those every Saturday things. And for urban folks, what a farmer looks like began to take on new definitions. Huh, Mr. Scott? Tell them a little bit about that scene.
Oh yeah, I like to say this too, is that when I got into farming too, is that Black farming was invisible. You know, it's like Ralph Ellison said, we were invisible man. We were invisible because if 20 years ago you asked, like you say, one to say if there are any Black farmers, they would have told you no, and they would have been partially true because there wasn't that many farmers, you know, and we still at a dismal level. But I can tell you this, is that I am where I am because of people like you. Wanda, you know, Patricia, you guys, because you're the one that pushed me out here now. So you guys gonna have to, you're gonna have to help me, because first of all is that I didn't get to where I am by myself. It was people like you that helped me. You gave me the optimism, because I can tell you that there were times when the African American farmers would have actually disappeared. But we held on. It took me and maybe 2 or 3 more people to keep the organization going. But as I went through that, I started to meet people. You know, like I said, I like to go back to is that when we first started, that I had gentlemen coming from Los Angeles. He had a farmer's market at Crenshaw and Slauson. Professor David Roach from the Bay Area came down. He was the first one that I interfaced with. David came down because he had a mission, so that I have to apologize to him for not running out his name now, but I'll think of it later. But they're the one that came to me and says, okay, there's a need in our community. So we got together as a farmer, you know, we didn't know too much about, you know, how to interface with the public. So we started going to Los Angeles, and we started coming to the Bay Area. But I can tell you that it was something interesting to me, because when I got to the Bay Area, is that I've started to meet people. You know, and when you have a certain spirit and you recognize that same spirit in other people, you feel more comfortable. you feel more assertive about being able to do what you do. And I tell you, is that when I find out too, is that if you know our black people that come from the South, we always had a garden. We always grew our stuff because we had to, because that was the way we survived. So when I got to the Bay Area and I found out that the urban people was already doing some of those things, they got interested. That was really uplifting for me, because one of the mission of the organization is that we're going to try to, bring, I don't want to say farming. I have to use the word agriculture, because young people are turned off by that because they read. You say farming and they equate it to slavery. So we use, agriculture to kind of, is another way to do it. But
Yeah.
as I got through that, I started meeting a lot of people too that had the same spirit. Now, and I guess you'll probably cover that later on in some other questions. But two is that how do we go from this point forward? And I think there's some things that's in place now, and that if you're a spiritual person, you realize too is that when like this pandemic, out of something bad, God makes sure something good come out of it.
Amen.
And you can see right now is that we're on the threshold now, because now all of a sudden is that people know that, especially I speak as a black farmer, that there are black farmers. Even in California, with our small number, people know about us now, and all we have to do is that put the pieces together, is that we got to come together at last as a people, because we were put on there, we were brought to this country for a reason other than, working for free. So we have to complete our mission, get together. We have people in place, and like the people we have here, to the young people especially. That's what I'm really pleased about, and that's a blessing to me, is that there are some young people that the spirit has come alive, and they can take what is in place now, and then they take it on to the next level. So I'm saying too, thank you guys for having me over here, and thank you for the question. And hopefully, we can kind of open this dialogue up so that people can say that, okay, we are a one people, really.
Yep. So, Zion, speaking of invisible black farmers and young people, you want to chime in on that? You're on mute, though.
Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
All right. Yeah, well, Mr. Scott, you almost made me cry right on Zoom, right in front of all these people.
It's good to see you, really, because like I said, this is going to be, from this point on, it's going to be a collaborative effort, from all of us, especially young people.
Oh my God.
That I live long enough to, I try to deny it, but this new technology is Zooming. You might have to give me a hand clap for being on Zoom.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. Scott, I've been hearing, we haven't met in person yet, and I just I so look forward to that day. And I've been following your journey and your work for years now. And one of my close friends and mentors, and now neighbor, is Brandy Mack, Sister B.
Oh yes.
And she speaks of you all the time. And yeah, I feel I'm also a transplant to California. I moved to the Bay Area. It was shortly after actually Trump was elected, and I just knew I needed to find my vocational path. I was working as a meditation for a few years, meditation teacher, and then I just felt like, literally, I felt that the land was calling me, and I needed to get my hands into the dirt in order to ground myself after Trump got elected, and also find my people to do some work that could sort of help direct my passion to be able to connect more to my food, and to be able to respond just to the political moment that we're in, and responding to the history of these lands, and responding from a place of wanting to just heal the legacies of this nation's painful history, and doing it together through the land is the thing that's really just called me. And yeah, I sort of have stumbled my way into this work by working at an urban farm for a bunch of years in Oakland, and we were bringing food that would have gone to waste from farmers markets down into East Oakland. So we were doing free food distribution for a bunch of years through that space, and then I got invited to come and move to a farm that's in the Sierra foothills, which is a 3-acre organic farm and community that is really looking to relate to the land and to tend the land in a very different way than the majority of agricultural spaces are currently tending it. So really sort of wanting to live into the practice of regenerating the ecosystem as we live in it. And so yeah, in this process of the past 5 years, I basically went from knowing nothing about farming and growing food. I couldn't keep a house plant alive for most of my childhood, to now being in a community where I'm taking care of 2 food forests, where we're growing 30 different varieties of vegetables at any given moment. And I'm one of the main people who's taking care of the space. So that learning curve was really short. And I just feel so, just so honored to be able to come and be invited into a space where, where, I'm surrounded by so many passionate young people. And I think one of the things that we really need is elder counsel more, to really ground our passion and to ground our visions into something practical and also big and visionary at the same time. So I'm just really grateful that that you have all called this circle together and that you've invited me to be a part of it. So I'll just stop there.
So you sort of bring up a topic. One of the reasons I decided to focus my thing in schools was not to waste undue energy trying to teach grown-ups who may not change, but to teach children going forward that working with the land is to their benefit, to their community benefit, to the earth's benefit, right? So the next question is, how do we ensure the knowledge of how to steward the land gets transferred and passed down to the next generation? And I will also say this, I only recently found out that my grandfather, who'd been dead for a very long time, had a bountiful backyard garden in Philadelphia, right? And so, I used to say growing food's part of my heritage because I'm a Black person, right? And it's all of us. But then I discovered that it is a thing in my family and it is a gift. And it wasn't passed down in a deliberate way. So I'd be interested to hear from you all what you think we should be doing as a Black community to ensure that our children get the importance of it, can heal through it, and all those kind of good things.
So I mentioned to you all about 3 generations. In order to really be transparent, when I have these discussions with family, that there's 3 parts to the discussion, and that is with 3 generations of family in the room, if you have the ability to bring them all together, it is, how do they feel about farming? Farming and agriculture, and as it pertains to a family legacy, because most people, like Mr. Scott said, when you use the word farming, it is automatically antiquated to slavery. And that is our past. We do not deny it. We should not deny it. But to really understand what family legacy looks like for that individual, it is the grandmamas and the grandpas in the room, their children, and then their grandchildren. So, because if you hear what was being done from the grandmas and the grandpas, the children should give honor to that, but at the same time, ask the question, how do we move forward with knowledge? And then The grandchildren are the ones that you give a seed to. If there is a container in the backyard, or if it is a 2 by 2 foot square area, say, go and plant that seed. But you got to have water and you got to have sun and an explanation of what is that seed going to turn into, and allow that baby to want to engage with wonderment about, at the end of this cycle, I get to eat, because that is the most important part of what I have seen. Because a child who can grow a carrot or a beet that doesn't look like anything that's store-bought, they're going to bite on it, and they're going to taste it. They may not like it, but I can guarantee you 85% of those children will love it, because their connection is, I dropped that seed in the ground. Now, when you go back to those 3 generations, the next logical question for me and what I've asked is, how do we build wealth behind it?
Exactly.
We got, it's really important.
Exactly.
Because
Amen.
our added value and what we do in that soil, it grounds us, but it's going to feed us. But we want to feed our community. Okay.
Exactly.
And like you said, Wanda, a dozen eggs for, what'd you say, $10? That's crazy.
$10.
That's crazy.
Right? Right?
I'm a chicken farmer.
And that was in 2000.
Yeah.
There you have it.
Right. Right.
Building the wealth behind our work is our added value to our community, because my goal, and has been for many, many years, is we grow farmers from a seed, who in turn become fabulous chefs, who in turn become entrepreneurs to feed our community, and we're going to get paid for it.
Right. Right.
Real simple.
Right.
I think you hit it right on the head, Patricia. You're exactly right. You know, I think too is that there's a point that I like to make too, is that being able to get young people in here, because our young people today, you are highly intelligent, you know a lot, but the thing that you like is history. And I think that we're finding out that, especially as people of color, we're going back now and relearning our history. We are circling back, because you need to know that, because if you don't know where you've been, you know, you end up back in that same position, you know. But what we're
Correct
doing
that.
now is that, and it's like knowledge. I look at knowledge this way, is that knowledge don't belong to me. It was given to me, and I need to give it to someone else, because, you know, why should I die and take what I know with me? You know, I should be able to impart it to someone here, you know, and to the young people. And you're right, is that I think that we're doing the right thing. Is the fact is that trying to go back to the young people, you know, because we have been psychologically brainwashed into eating food because how it look, is it pretty? We eat it, you know, and if it has a blemish on it, we won't do it. But if you know that we grew food, we didn't use all the chemicals to make things pretty. You know, we planted it, and we had the blessing of God in order for you to make it grow and give us what we need. And that's what we did, you know, is that we did that. But also getting to the present day now, is that I like to share this with you too, is that it's scriptural too. It's from the Bible, is that the oppressed will take on the values of the oppressor. And you're right, is that when we were emancipated, instead of us going on and putting into practice those things that we were taught, that we live with, that we had put in it, we walked away from those things, you know, and we started not only eating food that traditionally we wasn't supposed to eat, because we are of African descent. We are we are plant eaters, you know, but we, like I said, we eat meat. And I confess to you is that, you know, I can't eat as much now, but I love pork, you know, because I was coming up, we didn't eat that much beef, but we ate a lot of chicken, we ate a lot of pork, we ate a lot of fish, you know, and I still love pork, but my digestive system has changed, so I can't do that. So I'm relegated to go back to plants, you know. But we also know this too, is that our people knew exactly what plants to eat in order for us to build up our immune system. You take, like I say,
Right.
I grow a lot of collard greens. Collard greens has a tendency to lower your cholesterol. Celery and
Right.
stuff like that. You know, it deals with some other things. Now I'm an advocate of black eyed pea. If you say black eyed pea, you'll probably see my name or somewhere. but but black eyed peas also it builds up your immune system. The Cancer Society, you know, they give credit to that. You know, and especially black eyed peas are very good for females to help them with that digestive system. You know, so we know that what we should be doing in order to make ourselves healthy. There are some people too, is that with this pandemic, this virus going around, you notice that some people are catching it and some people are not. And most of those
Right.
people who are not, they're those people who are eating the correct food and they're doing the
Right.
things that they should be doing so that system can combat it. And
Mhm.
also I'm for this too, and then I'm a yield. I believe this too, is that in this agriculture business, you should consume what is grown in your environment, because within your environment, you eat this stuff, it will build up your immune system to protect you for anything that comes into your environment. But as it is now, is that, you know, we're getting food from everywhere, you know, and that's why I'm an advocate for buying local, you know, buy from the local. And also too, is that food, vegetables should be eaten at the proper time of its maturity. Stuff we get in the stores are not mature. I mean, we have to, for a shelf life, they have to pick it early and let it sit there, you know, and then turn color, you know, and sometimes you have to give it
Yeah.
a little help. But
Right.
anyway, getting back to it
So,
too is,
Mr. Scott,
yes.
that means you don't drink no more of them sodas, right?
No, I don't drink sodas anymore, but I tell you, I think I guess I shouldn't mention this, but I do drink I do drink those Arizona teas. You know, I've been drinking those things. You know. But no, every now and
It's an
then.
improvement over those Coca-Colas. I'm okay with it.
But you know, sometimes too is that, you know, you got to kind of, you know, you're in the flesh, so you do fleshy things. You know, sometimes I have to have Pepsi because if my stomach is bothering me, sometimes I like to bother my stomach. You know, so I'll eat a Pepsi,
Right.
drink a Pepsi. You know.
So, excuse me, another question, and please pardon the dog. So, you know, one of my beefs in the Bay Area has been that it's been very difficult for the Black urban ag enthusiasts to work well and cooperatively with each other, right? And so I want to ask our group, how do we work together to elevate all of this before we turn to tell the other folks what we'd like them to hear? How do we work together to pull this off?
I think that we're having we're probably putting those things in place because one with you know with people like you remember Professor Gail Myers, you know,
Yep.
and Elaine Smith, you know, those people have been a tremendous value to me, is because as a farmer, I should do what I do best as farm, but also we need advocates out there, people who can help us get the food to where it's supposed to be, you know, to the people who need it. And Elaine and Gail has done that, and Dr. Roach has done that, you know, and Patricia, what you guys are doing up there in Stockton, you know, the Israel family too, is that, you know, they have done a tremendous amount of stuff too. It's that all we have to do is we got to close the loop. We got to find out about each other. What is each one of us doing so we can come together, because that way one person don't carry the whole load. You know, we can come together as a group, as a people, you know, and we can kind of fulfill what of our mission here is. And two of the things that we're supposed to do is, one, is supposed to serve one another, and we're supposed to love one another. You know, in order to do that,
Right?
food is a major catalyst, because if you notice, you can be in a room with people you don't like, but when you start eating, you got pieces all around. I mean, you getting along, you know. So I think we can use, you know, use food as a method in order for us to get together as a people and as a nation, you know. And I think that this pandemic has allowed us to really take some time out and rethink where we ought to be and what we should be doing, and also what we haven't done. And I think that,
Yeah.
I don't know, I think that on the program you said that you're going to have a bill going in Washington now that it probably addressed later, that if you,
Yeah, we're
you know,
getting ready to do that. We're
okay,
getting ready
but,
to do that right now. Chris,
okay,
did
but
you want to add anything in closing? And I see Zion's hand as well.
Well, I just, I agree so much with what Mr. Scott is saying, but we have to learn to work together. Unity is almost a bad word these days, I say sometimes, but it's a word that it's going to take all of us together to make this happen. We can talk about it, but I mean, collaboration. Like I said, Patricia said some wonderful things that really got me thinking about the generation. I'm very fortunate, that I sit here and I think now I'm third of the fourth generation that's alive today, and that's really a blessing. And so there's a gap somewhere, with my father, he introduced the land to me, but there was 30 years that have gone by. And now, so there's a generational gap, but, collaboration, working together, and just unity. And I'm a firm believer into that. So I'm just going to keep preaching unity, unity, unity. And I look forward to meeting you all so soon. That's going to be one of the things that, as I see, like I said, if we can come together, come see your forms, what you're doing, what's working. And these are the types of things. Don't reinvent the wheel. You know what I mean? There's some things that are already set in place that we can learn from. And I'll just end it right there. Right. Thank you for letting me talk.
Right. Zion?
Yeah.
Did you want to add something?
Yeah, thank you. I would love to continue to hold the question of how can more land be brought back into the hands of Black people and brown people and indigenous people and all people, but those people first, like in a big way in these coming years. I think there's a critical mass of people who are waking up to the history of these lands, the history of the stolen labor, the history of the colonization of this place. And I think that we are at a potential watershed moment in the transformation of agricultural and land policy in this country, and it has the potential to restructure things in a significant way. I think that just even I've done in the basic research that I've done about the history of the colonization of the West, how recent it is, and how so much of the land was allocated through the Homesteading Act of 1862 that gave 4 million homestead claims to mostly white folks, 95%, I think maybe 97% sometimes white folks. 270 million acres of land were granted at no cost with the stroke of a federal pen. And, the current agricultural climate that we're currently navigating and talking about, including our farm, was originally a part of an 800 parcel space that was then split up, that was awarded to a family during the Homesteading Act. And that family has split it up into like 8 parcels. We're currently on a 3-acre parcel on Homesteading Act land. And we're a multiracial community of people who are, and also a cross-class community. So there's people who are a part of what we're doing that have inherited lots of wealth from the past that they have realized was generated through colonization and enslavement and exploitation of people, and are now on their journey saying, hey, what's my role in this? Like, how can I contribute to this obvious healing that's needed? And how can we model? I think one of the main questions for me these days is, what are the ways that we can model the cooperative businesses that can succeed on land that can include training into these different cooperatives, and employ people or create a mechanism for people to live there. And I think the land trust is a really beautiful route. I want to lift up Brandy Mack in this vision. She's been holding this vision now for a decade about people of color led land trust that is not excluding white people, but is led and centering the needs of Black people in particular. I think it's a very compelling and necessary project that has a lot of potential to I think hold some of this wealth building work that I hear people alluding to. So I'm very excited, and I feel very, very hopeful and optimistic that that there's actually a growing like grassroots awareness of the need for this to happen that feels like it's unstoppable at this point. So I'm grateful to be on the ride with you all.
Thank you, Zion.
So go ahead, Patricia.
So just something very quick. In that same breath, Zion, what you're talking about, I appreciate that, because this now is about a courageous conversation being led to make sure, as what Mr. Scott said, we don't lose any momentum and go back and lose something. So here is the thought process for me. If we are all able to identify that we have pieces of this puzzle, and the puzzle is to move forward. If we understand the end game and move backwards from that will help us collectively build a stronger foundation of trust and resiliency, because I guarantee you, working backwards, we won't make those same mistakes. And Zion, what we talked about previously in our preparation for this, that bill, as Mr. Scott said, you are one of the younger folks who will bring us the information. And Chris, I'm excited about the bigger picture, but us having a larger piece of that pie to build our trust, because we're the ones who know what needs to happen, and moving forward and giving that information with trust in our hearts and in our mind, to have the knowledge to make sure that land trust is where we're going, because there's so much land out here. We've got to get our piece of that pie. So we're going to get it done. You know why?
Yeah.
Because it's 2021, okay? We're going to
Right.
make it happen. We're going to make it happen. That's all I'm saying, okay?
Right. So I got to say, my dream is for all of us to get together on some land and grow cotton. And I'm not even playing, right? I think because there's some healing that needs to go way deep and long in the Black herb movement as well, right? And I'll even go further and go among the Black females who are leading that. We control all the growing in the Bay Area through nonprofits and all the work that we do. And that's a powerful position for us to be in. So I believe if we grow some cotton together, because we're all at the end of the day farmers, that we'll learn about that crop, we'll deal with all of our trauma, right? And have some result to show for it. But we're about to go to questions and answers, but I wonder, Zion, if we gave you an assignment of sorts, or you accepted an assignment of sorts, just to give us a little bit of detail about new legislation and bills online as we move to a new world. But like real briefly, if you would just sum it up for us all.
Great. So I'm happy to read the two main points that the Justice for Black Farmers Act is hoping to Well, there's 4 main points, but for our sake today, I just wanted to bring 2 goals that this bill is hoping to make possible. First is restoring the land base lost by Black farmers. The act creates a new equitable land access service within USDA to acquire farmland and provide land grants of up to 160 acres to existing and aspiring Black farmers. These land grants will allow hundreds of thousands of new Black farmers to return to the land in the next decade. To help ensure their success, these new Black farmers will be provided access to USDA operating loans and mortgages on favorable terms. That's point 1. And point 2, this is the reason I bring this as point 2 is because it feels potentially connected to the youth education work that many of us hold dear. This one is called Creating a Farm Conservation Corps. The act creates a USDA program where young adults from socially, quote unquote, socially disadvantaged communities will be provided with the academic, vocational, and social skills necessary to pursue careers in farming and ranching. Participants in the program will be paid by USDA and will serve as on-farm apprentices at no cost to socially disadvantaged farmers and ranchers. Beginning farmers and ranchers and organic farmers and ranchers with annual gross farm income of less than $250,000. Black participants who gain experience through this program will have high priority for land grants.
So that just sort of underwrites how important it is for us to teach some young people to farm, yeah?
Pretty much. Pretty much.
Yes, see, and that's where the African American farmers is, and also the people that we associated with too, is that because sometimes we miss out on opportunity because we are not prepared. Well, I think with legislation like this, that's on the board, and also with the interest that a lot of people have shown towards, especially helping the Black farmers out, is that the Black farmers, we have a task to do, especially those who are existing now. We got to bring people in to, like say, replace me. But also too, we should have things in place so that they are prepared. When people want to help you, you need to be in a position to be helped. So there's some things that we have to do in order to get that. Now, Wanda, you made a point too, is that, and I must admit too, is that, and this is probably throughout our history, is that our women, the Black woman, has been out there. You guys are really, you was a glue that held us together as a family, and I have to give it to you, and I appreciate it, and I thank you, but also too is that, and also too, you have to be patient with us male, because you're right, is that the people that I interface with is that they are all females. Most of females out there who are doing things. The male is, but the history of this country too, as pertaining to the Black male. There's things that are done to him to keep him back. So, we as a group, we're coming together too, but we have to position ourselves too, that we can be prepared to meet the opportunities that come forward. Now, this bill they got too is that, it will certainly lay the playing field and give us a lot of opportunity to do what we do best. So I'm looking forward to doing that, but also too that I'm looking forward to working with the different groups so that we can come together and put a format together so that, the young people can follow it and they can do it. So, and I thank you, but before I get off of here, I like to say this. Without slaves, there'd be no slavery. Without slavery, there'd be no cotton, Wanda. And without cotton, there'd be no industrial revolution in this United States. And without the industrial revolution, United States would be just another European colony, But here we are, we're the most advanced nation on the earth. And that's due primarily to the kickstart that our people gave this country. So, we're in a position now is that to realize too is that what we done was not in vain. Whereas now we can kind of bring this to a closure. Because if you look at a modern civilization, it only lasts 500 to 600 years. we've been here for, almost 400 years. So we have to do something. We better do something. And like it says that young people like Zion, who is not of my persuasion, but also I've met a lot of people like him, young people coming up, they have this spirit and also the heart to, to work with equity, to make sure that there's justice into it. So like I said, those groups and what, what like you take me as that I'm my father was the first wheel, I'm the second, my son is the third, his son is the fourth, and now his son is got a son, so he's the fifth. So there's a fourth generation. I have 4 generations here with me now. So out of that, I'm hoping that I have someone to replace me. I have a granddaughter. She's studying to be a master gardener. So hopefully, when the time comes, she can take over for me. Once again, there's that lady, So, but anyway, really, I tell you, you guys have made my day. You continue to make my day. Is that figure that people have people like you is out there doing some things, putting things into order so that we can actually come together as people. And like I said,
Right.
it's about time for Black people to come together.
Mr. Scott, I got to tell you something else. Actually, Zion is of your persuasion. He might not look like that, right? And I think what is so important about that, right, is that when we define who is a farmer, who is Black, right, that we remember that we've been growing and morphing, and there's a whole lot of folks that can help us hold this down. Zion's grandparents, they from, what are they, North Carolina, Zion?
Georgia.
Right.
Yeah, but you have to forgive me, Zion, because first of all, sometimes, but you're correct too, and you're rightfully so too, is that, we go on appearance, and I should be the last one to say that because, I was born in Oklahoma because, I only knew 3 cultures. That was Black, white, and Indian, and that blood, all three bloods flow through me. But also too is that I know I got people like you, Zion, who that, like I said, in this country, and in this world, we worship money, skin colors, or religion. So sometimes we get caught up in that, and I'm not perfect. Sometimes I do too. Is that, but also too is that because I got grandkids that look just like you, Zion. So but what I'm saying too is that we have to kind of put things in perspective. That we do have a problem on the racial line that we have to deal with, and people like you and like I said, that you're stepping forward to say, okay, I'm for justice. Because if we have justice, everybody makes out. I mean, we all gets out. And you talk about equity. Equity should be there, and that's what we should strive for. So, Zion, brother, you got to begin.
Yes. On that note, I wanted to, and thank you. This is, I mean, we could go on for hours like this. This is beautiful.
Oh, Rashid, we got more time.
No, we got more time. We got more time. I did want to allow, the audience, they sit and they're patient and receiving, these wonderful gifts that y'all are dropping. But I also want to allow them to have a chance to interact a little bit. So we don't have that much time. So I'm not gonna. Normally I would want to hear the voice of the person and allow them to say their question, but there were folks that wrote in. I'm going to just say the question, and then Wanda, you go ahead and we can pick a specific panelist to start us off on this. So Julie Ward asked, thank you for the question. I am an African-American older female who wants to buy a small amount of land near or within a community to grow food, herbs, and participate in community. I am not a farmer and will need help. Where do you suggest we start?
Ooh, I'm going to answer that question and say, start with Zion Davidson. But Zion, tell her about the refuge.
Well,
and particularly your notion about elders and support to elders, right?
Sure. Is this person in the space?
Yeah.
Yes, they're here in the room.
Okay. Okay. Sure. I'm happy to hi there. I'm happy to share just a little bit, which is that we're a community that's 2 hours east of the Bay Area, so we're directly east of we're probably 2 hours and 15 minutes, and we're about 40 miles away from Yosemite, and we're we're embarking right now. Actually, the folks who started this farm are actually selling this place to us as a cooperative, and we're going to be doing farm dinners and a farm share and a seed company and apothecary, and eventually we want to bring in a detox center and a birthing center and a hospice eventually as a part of our model. But we want to create space for education to happen and document all of that work and work with kids and stuff like that. So we are in a place of forming right now, and there's a lot of stuff happening, but we are like open to collaboration and open to people who are interested in joining on some level of this model to join to connect with us, and we're looking to have those businesses be like the economic engine for the community and for people to bring their own expertise and passions into the mix. So I'm happy to share more, but that if that answers the question, then and would love to have any of you all for a visit.
Zion, there was a question from another member, asked if there's a link to your project.
Sure. Yes.
What would be the best?
I can put that into the chat box.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Yep.
But Zion, you missed the opportunity to tell the elders like myself that you want to take care of us in our old age and make a hospice too.
I absolutely want to be cooking you food and rubbing your feet as you're giving
There
your
it is.
Yes. That's the truth.
Amen.
Beautiful.
Yes.
But also,
and I will just say that the project that they're doing, I've been attending the meetings, and there's a beautiful community of people that come together of all ages to consider this possibility. And I believe in it enough at this point that the organization that I help to run is choosing to fiscally sponsor them in their efforts because it is that well thought out and has that much potential to it.
Mr. Scott, I think you were gonna say something.
I was gonna say too, is that people that wants to get into farming too, you can start out by, some of the projects like what Zion has, also in things that what Wanda's doing and what they're doing also up there in Sacramento, is that, volunteer some time to go out and talk to them and spend some time with them, and then you can kind of learn what's going on from the ground up. But also too is that the USDA has programs. Also, UC Extension has a program, and a lot of universities has program that you can get involved in to get the technical knowledge. But also, to be a farmer, you need land. So you need to, be able to deal with people or entities that has land, and a lot of people has land that they're not doing anything with. You may be able to rent it, and start from that point. But yeah, but if you want to get into it, you need to talk to the people who are already in it,
I also just generally suggest to people that it's one thing when you want to buy land, but it's also good to find spaces near where you live, right? You become a more able and committed steward of land when you don't have to drive a long time. Like I would love to go and grow with Mr. Scott, but Fresno to the Bay Area is just far enough to make that a little hard to do on the regular. So looking locally at community gardens, I'm a big proponent of school gardens. My school garden is in West Oakland, Hoover Elementary. It's a way to impact children. It's a way to build community. I'm reminding public schools now that the lands they sit on are our lands, and therefore we have every right to steward them in these ways.
I'm gonna build when I get my next paycheck, I'm building a speed train you'll be able to come down here in 30 minutes.
All right, there we go. I'll be there in a blink.
So also to everybody, making sure that we at least a minimum once a quarter come together as a group and visit each other is really, really important to see, continue being able to grow, because you're right. I haven't seen Mr. Scott in over a decade. And
Wow.
you know, being in Stockton, that time travel thing is really, really important. But for right now, we can do it once a quarter, every 4 months. We travel to everyone else and make sure that it happens.
Trevor says that they'll make T-shirts for a family reunion.
There you go. There you go.
But
So,
you know,
I did want to get one more. This is a question that I think will stir up some good controversy. Taylor asks, I have never owned land in my life, and I live in Fresno. How do I go about learning to be a farmer? What educational apprenticeship opportunities are there? And then 2 also asks, I feel compelled to leave California and go farm in the South because of water access, cheaper property taxes, etc. Is there a good reason to stay here? So any of y'all that want to either one of these, the training,
Oh
the
my
technical
God.
assistance, and then also on, staying in California and whether or not it's a good idea given the water situation and the property taxes.
well, you say she's in Fresno?
I don't know if it's a he or a she.
Yes.
Her name is Taylor.
Yeah,
Hello?
but
Hi, yes.
they're in Fresno, right?
It's a she. Okay. Thank you, Taylor. It sounds like I heard your voice.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I should have put my pronouns.
What she can do is
Thank
that you can give her my number, because I'm the president of American Farmers of California, and we are located in Fresno, and we have a demonstration site. So we welcome her to come to our meetings to get familiar, and then we can kind of, help her, if she want to get into it, we see what we can do to get her into it. Not only as training, but also we can familiarize with some of the services that we have to offer. So have her, give her my number, tell her to call me.
I've been begging
I'll do that,
Mr.
Mr.
Scott
Scott.
to take on mentors for a long time. Go find Mr. Scott is right.
Yeah, but we're setting up. Matter of fact, I'm really optimistic because we've had this demonstration site for going on maybe 10 years, and we just now get to the point where we got full occupancy out there. We have the whole place all planted, and we're going to set it up too. Is that especially Patricia, like and one like you guys up in the Bay Area, we like to set it up too. Is that invite you down, and we have something to show you. We can take you through it, and you can kind of see it on that scale, and then from there, you see what we do on a demonstration site. But then I'm also personally, I had to get my farm in order too, because a lot of people want to see what I'm doing. So I like to be able to show you what I'm doing, and it looks like this year is going to be a pretty good year as I can try to get some things in place. But by all means, if there are any of the listeners in Fresno, come by and attend our meetings. We meet the second Thursday of every month, 5:30 until hopefully when this pandemic is over, we can meet inside. So yeah, by all means.
Mr. Scott, whenever you put those dates on the calendar, I'm coming down with my pitchfork and my shovel and my big wide hat so I don't get sunburned. And we're going to dig up some soil for you. Okay.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Right? You don't have to wait till you got it in order. You call the people to come and help you put it in order.
Well, I tell you what, that was surprising too, because you guys know Elaine Smith, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Is that I had, I got busy in a lot of stuff, so I had some weeds, and she brought down 7 volunteers, and they was all women. And I want to tell you something, is that, I do it all. I mean, I do it every day, but I had to work a little faster because these ladies really, they really did a job. I mean, they really helped out, and those are things that's kind of uplifting for a farmer, when you got people that will come and want to help you at a time when you really need them, and that's that's all about helping one another, you know, and it was certainly a blessing to have them come down. And what I would like to do is that once we build it up too, is that, you know, I can have people, you know, coming down from the Bay Area or from wherever and spend some time with them, and I can, you know, show them what I do, you know, and train them, and then they can take it back to, you know, to their home or to their place, you know. So, and that's what it's all about, you know, this knowledge, sharing it, you know, and I can tell you too, with my age, is that I learn a lot from young people. You know, sometimes that role reverse, you know, they, especially my son and my grandchildren, they're the one that's tutoring me now, you know, because, you know, and that's the way it should be, you know, is that they should do it. And young people, uh, they bring value added to this farming, you know, as far as what you do, what you take the plants and do with it, because traditionally, we take, say, a crop, a vegetable or something, and we cook it all day. But young people says, no, you don't have to cook it all day. You know, you can go ahead on and you stir fry it or something like it for 30 minutes, you're ready to eat. You know, and vegetables should be eat as close to, you know, the raw state as possible. So, but no, I'm excited. I mean, you guys you don't know what you did for me today. I mean, I don't shout, but when I get off this phone, I may shout. So, but thank you.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. We have another question that came in from Nikita Jane.
Hold on one second though, Rashid. Let me just say about the where you should live and whether to go down south. I think the South is kind of one of my personal cultural limits. I'm from Philly. It was hard. Went to Duke University. That was enough. But I will say that there are some major Black farmer groups on Facebook. And I've never seen so many Black folks talking about, hey, I just bought 100 acres of land. And what am I going to do with it? So I'm not going to tell anybody not to go down south. I see a lot of folks who are doing a lot of stuff down there. And I would encourage you to connect up with them through that tool just to hear about that. They're very supportive of one another.
Absolutely. And, you know, just before we get to that, I just want to say the last question to close it. A lot of people call, you know, most of the folks in California have Southern roots. So,
right.
So, you know, my roots go further south into the Caribbean. But, you know, many of the folks that are here now, white and Black, you know, have roots in, like you say, Oklahoma, Mr. Scott, Texas, you know, Louisiana. And so in some ways we are still in the South, you know, in some ways. I just wanted to, I think this is a good question to close us out. Nikita Jane asks, how can we all stay in contact after this and take this momentum to keep moving forward? Anybody can grab this.
Rashid, you're the man who brought us together. So after this is all over, since it is being recorded, moving it forward, we are connected through you. So let's just put a deeper dive on how do we allow them to stay connected through us, through CAFT. It's very, very important. And, you know, that was one of my first things when I talked with Paul about changing the momentum and changing CAFT's systems to keep us all connected.
Absolutely.
You know, yeah,
absolutely. And yeah, I can respond to that and say that as a member of the Black Urban Growers, Black Farmers Urban Gardeners Association, which is a national organization, hosted a national conference in Oakland back in 2016. That and it's currently, it's in its 10th year now, 10 years in the making, since 2010, now 11. It's currently undergoing a strategic planning process. We're actually just in the midst of hiring a visioning, somebody who's going to help us with facilitating visioning for the organization. And the organization is ready to go to the next level, like AAFC is ready to go to the next level, like BUFA is ready to go to the next level, like the Refuge is ready to go to the next level, Common Vision, like it's all happening all at once. And so, but Bugs doesn't really have a presence out west here yet. And so that's, Mr. Scott said, everybody's been put here for a reason,
Yeah.
that's why I'm here, as to make that connection between the East and the West. And then you have the South and just all of it together, all of us moving forward together. So yes, absolutely. I did want to allow us to, yeah, go ahead, Wanda. Go ahead, Wanda. Go ahead.
Well, I'm going to just start this cotton project because we can all do it in place. I think we've gotten very used to Zoom, right? We send everybody cotton seeds. We have different colors. We could come together once a month to talk about the crop, to talk about how our plants are growing. We could all make an individual meal and eat it together. And maybe as we move out of this pandemic, for those that are nearby, find ways to physically get together and connect as well. Mr. Scott, you know how to grow cotton?
Oh, yes. But I consider this too is that, Rashid, too, you answered your own question, really. I see this here too is that, when a program come into the Black community, and it's a good program, it should have longevity to it, and what you got, you pull us together today. The responsibility to follow to you is that we need to follow up too, because we need to stay in touch, because there's some things that you're working on and Patricia working on and then one is working on and Zion working on too, is that we all should know what each one is doing, because there are people in the community need to know about these things. They need to have access to them. So, it's incumbent on you is that to bring us back together again, and let's see where we are, because there's some things that are coming forward that we need to actually work together on, and so for you young people, you really got the energy, and I'm holding you to it, that you do it, keep going with what you're doing. I appreciate it, and then we can kind of get together. But the young lady that has those people who are listening, that their parents have land back in the South, to me, I think if it's in your DNA, I think you should go back and farm, because that land is sitting there been waiting for you, been waiting for somebody to come back. You need to go back and do that. Also, too, I'm in close contact with a good friend of mine, John Boyd. You guys know him, you know. So he's back there. John is heavy. Matter of fact, he is a guy that mentored me. He's a guy I look up to, because he was in the struggle long before me, and he has set some standards too. Is that hopefully, if we can get ourselves together in California, and we can work together with the Southern Co-op, is that we can also be in a position to help one another. Because if we ever have a disaster again, like Katrina, we should be in a position on the West Coast that we can help the people back there, when they need food and stuff like that. Because in California, we can grow things 365 days out of the year, and we have a lot of seasonal crops. So we're in a position to actually be of service to our people back there in the South, And likewise, also, they can also be a assistance to us too.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, Rashid, I thank you. One is good seeing you and Patricia. It's been a long time. So, but you guys, hey, I don't know. You guys seem to be getting more beautiful. So I don't know. But thank you. And then Zion, certainly it's good to meet you. I look forward to working with you, and seeing some of the things that you do, because I contend this is that the people that's going to replace me on the farm here is going to be actually someone from the urban setting. Because your urban people you're into farming, you're learning all the techniques and stuff like that. All you need is more space, and that's what we should be about, acquiring space. And like I said, if we can get some things going, we can have the space for people, to really actualize, what they should be doing. So with that, I want to thank you guys, really. Bless you.
Thank you, everybody on the panel. And Wanda, I'm going to let you close us out.
Yep.
I'm going to share my screen again, and we're going to let the great, late, and just amazing George Washington Carver close us out here. Hold on one moment.
Yep. Let me say this while Rashid pulls that up. Mr. Scott says we've got to be ready. And I discovered on the day that Oakland closed its schools that I was ready. I had a garden. I had 2 mature gardens that in springtime were bringing fruit and bringing food. And we had all the medicine to deal with the lung issues as we moved into that pandemic. And the kids in the school came out and picked collard greens and took them home in big grocery bags full. They knew how to grow them. They knew how to take them to their family, and they knew that that was medicine. And that was the confidence that we walked into the pandemic with. I was truly empowered. We are all, or should be, very truly empowered too by the work of Brother George Washington Carver. I know we always talk about him in regards to peanuts, but this man is also credited with regenerating the soil in the South. And had it not been his work to do that, many, many people would have starved during the Depression. And he had 8 rules that he lived by that I think are just worth holding to heart for everybody on the planet. Number 1, be clean, both inside and out. Number 2, neither look up to the rich nor down to the poor. Number 3, lose if need be without squealing. 4, win without bragging. 5, always be considerate of women, children, and older people. Number 6, be too brave to lie. Number 7, be too generous to cheat. And number 8, take your share of the world and let others take theirs. If we can all get on those 8 points, we've got this world.
Exactly.
And with that, I would thank all of you for being here.
And folks, feel free to, if you wanted to just maybe based on what you've heard today, just want to thank our panelists and Wanda for such a wonderful conversation that we were able to eavesdrop on today. If folks want to just leave maybe one word of how they're feeling in the chat in response to what we just heard, that would be great. And I thank you. Folks, remember, we're not done for the day yet for CAF's conference. We're closing things out with a social and the award ceremony coming up very shortly at 3 o'clock. You'll definitely want to stick around for that. And I am excited.
Are you going to tell them anything about that award ceremony?
I can tell you that Mr. Scott is definitely going to be a part of it. I can tell you that he will be featured prominently in that. That's all I'll say. I don't want to give away anything else. Yeah. So thank you everybody for being a part of it. If you're looking for the link to participate the same way you found this event on the CAF website, the link, and if I can, I'll try to see if I can drop it in the chat also. Bear with me. Yes, okay, I'm on here. Quick links.
I just posted it, Rashid.
Oh, thank you, Evan. You got it. Evan's all over it. Thanks. All right, so everybody has the link to get ready for awards at 3 o'clock. I'll let everybody go get ready for that. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I thank everybody. I'm seeing a lot of great responses in the chat. Just a couple I'll read to close us out. Uplifted, motivated, fired up, gratitude and respect, connected, grateful, inspired, whole, full of anticipation, ready, Brighton-Bush, ready, gratitude, inspired, blessed. Yeah, thank you everybody for informed is another one. Thank you everybody, and I appreciate all of you. Yeah, let's just keep digging and keep loving, and keep building.
Thank you, Rashid. Bye-bye, everybody.
Okay, thank you,
All right.
Rashid.
God bless.
Chris,
Look
I'll
forward to
see.
seeing you real soon.
Okay, see you, Chris. Yeah,
All right, Mr. Scotty.
yeah, yeah.